Public success is built in private, long before results become visible. Habits are already shaping the outcome. Small daily actions, small repeated behaviors, small routine nobody notices. That is where the result transformation begins because visible success is only the final stage. The real work happens long before anyone sees result. Hi, I'm Bhavindesai. Most people focus too much on big moments, big opportunities, big achievements, big breakthroughs. But life is rarely changing in one dramatic moment. Life changes through repeated behavior, the things done daily, the actions repeated consistently, the habits followed even when nobody is watching. That is what creates identity, and identity controls performance because eventually people do not rise to their goals, they fall to the level of the habits. That is why habits matters more than temporary motivations. Motivation can create actions once, habit creates actions repeatedly, and repeated actions create momentum. Momentum creates growth, growth creates results. That is how progress compounds over time, quietly, slowly, consistently. But many people ignore this because habits feel too small in the beginning. One extra hour wasted feels harmless. One lazy decision feels insignificant. One broken routine feels acceptable. But repeated small decisions eventually shape an entire future because habits are never isolated. They build patterns and patterns becomes lifestyle. That is why strong habits create strong lives, not instantly, but invariably. Because disciplined habits slowly strengthens everything. Focus improves, execution improves, mental strength improves, even confidence improves. Because confidence built through habit is real confidence. It is built through proof. Proof that discipline was maintained. Proof that consistency was repeated. Proof that commitments were repeated. That type of confidence becomes powerful because it does not depend on mood. It depends on evidence. And discipline habits creates that evidence daily. That is why private behavior matters so much. What gets repeated in private eventually becomes visible in public. Weak discipline in private eventually creates weak performance publicly. Strong discipline privately eventually creates powerful result publicly. Nothing stays hidden forever. Habits always reveal themselves through outcomes. That is why excuses become dangerous. Because excuses repeated daily becomes habit too. Delays become habits. Restrictions become habits. Evidence becomes habits. And negative habits slowly reduces standard without people noticing. That is how potential gets wasted, not through one major mistake, through repeated small behaviors that quietly weaken discipline over time. That is why awareness matters. Every repeated action is shaping identity. Every repeated decision is strengthening something, either discipline or weakness, either focus or distractions, either growth or stagnations. There is no ritual repetitions. Everything repeated becomes stronger. That is why disciplined people protect habits aggressively because they understand habits are not just routines, they are future builders. Morning routines, work routines, focus routines, health routines, learning routines. All of them compounds over time. And compounding is powerful because small disciplined actions repeated for months create massive separations. At first, the difference is visible. Then slowly progress appears, energy improves, focus sharpens, executions become faster. Eventually results become impossible to ignore, and people call it talent, people call it luck, people call it natural ability. But most of the time, they are only seeing the visible outcome of invisible habits repeated constantly for a long time. That is the truth. Strong lives are built quietly. Daily discipline rarely looks exciting. Consistency rarely looks dramatic. But repetition creates power. That power becomes momentum. Momentum becomes growth. Growth becomes result. And results change everything. So from today, stop focusing only on one big achievement. Focus on daily habits because daily habits decide future outcomes. Protect routines that improves discipline. Remove routines that weakens focus. And most importantly, stay consistent even when results are not visible yet. Because habits work silently before they work visibly. That is why patience matters. Most people quit too early because they expected immediate result. But habits are investments, and investments grow over time. The stronger result usually comes after long periods of consistent repetition. That is why persistence matters so much. Not perfect performance, persistence performance, repeated disciplined efforts again and again without needing constant motivations, because eventually habit becomes automatic, and once positive habit becomes automatic, progresses speeds up naturally. Discipline feels easier, focus lasts longer, executions improve without focusing it. That is the power of repetitions. So build habit carefully, because the habit repeated privately today will become the public result seen tomorrow. Now take action. And if this message pushes you to protect your habits and stay disciplined daily, like, subscribe, and comment.